Hey, good morning, everyone. How are you? I hope that you're okay. I hope that you are safe. I hope that you have shelter. I hope you have water. I hope that you have food. It is Monday, September 14th, and that means it's Mantra Monday. We're resuming after a break. We didn't do one over Labor Day weekend, and we're continuing with the Opulence of the Absolute, which is chapter 10 of the Bhagavad Gita. This is the Bhakti text translated by A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. So I do two. I do one here, and I do one on Instagram. And then, of course, if you're watching this on YouTube later, then I will, or I should say the description is in the box below. So I give the Sanskrit, I give the Roman transliteration, the word-for-word translation, and then the translation, the purport, and then I try and offer any little realizations that I may have or anecdotes that I may have. So wow, what a week. So many people have lost their homes. It's the photography and the views of San Francisco and Seattle and Oregon and is just, there's no words, you know. It's definitely presenting a stark reality. A stark reality for how important it is for the human being to be responsible and thoughtful. And for me, just underlining the fact that we really need to take shelter of a higher power. We really do need guidance. And that's the purpose of Mantra Monday, is to at least help keep me on track and to provide some positive sound vibration in the atmosphere, which is free from mental speculation, you know, which is free from opinion. Okay, so this verse goes like this. Prahlādaś, let me do that again. Prahlādaś cāsmi daityānām, kalayatām aham, mṛgāṇāṁ ca mṛgendro vainateyaś pakṣiṇām. So I'm going to sing it. Prahlādaś cāsmi daityānām, kalayatām aham, mṛgāṇāṁ ca mṛgendro vainateyaś pakṣiṇām. Prahlādaś cāsmi daityānām, kalayatām aham, mṛgāṇāṁ ca mṛgendro vainateyaś pakṣiṇām. Word for word translation. Prahlāda, Prahlād, cha, also, asmi, I am, daityānām, of the demons, kālaḥ, kalayatām, of subduers, aham, I am, mṛgāṇāṁ, of animals, cha, and, mṛga-indraḥ, the lion, aham, I am, vainateyaḥ, Garuḍa, cha, also, pakṣiṇām, of birds. Translation. Among the Daitya demons, I am the devoted Prahlāda. Among subduers of time, among subduers I am time. Among beasts I am the lion, and among birds I am Garuḍa. So I'm going to read that again. Among the Daitya demons I am the devoted Prahlāda. Among subduers I am time. Among beasts I am the lion, and among birds I am Garuḍa. This is reminding me sometimes when you get these riddles, you know, these games that people put in various social locations. Usually you see them in a bar where you have a riddle and then you have to guess what that thing is that they are talking about. But here we're talking about the opulence of the Absolute, and where Kṛṣṇa is speaking on how he can be seen in our everyday lives. Hey, Carl Maverick Niles, good morning. And so that's what this whole chapter is about. So now I'm going to read the purport. We're going to get into a little background and a little history here. Hey, Matt Early, good morning. Hey, Dave Perrin, good morning. We got quite a crowd here this morning. I hope you're all well. It's really nice to see you. Thank you so much for being here. I'm just trying to provide a little positive energy this morning because it's been a heck of a week, huh? Okay, so it says Diti and Aditi are two sisters. The sons of Aditi are called the Ādityas, and the sons of Diti are called the Daityas. All the Ādityas are devotees of the Lord, and all the Daityas are atheistic. Although Prahlāda was born in the family of the Daityas, he was a great devotee from his childhood. Because of his devotional service and godly nature, he is considered to be a representative of Kṛṣṇa. Kṛṣṇa means all attractive. It's another name for the Supreme. And there are many reasons why the Lord is all attractive, right? Because he's all powerful, all beautiful, has all knowledge, all renunciation, all wealth, and all strength. And of course, compassion. There are many subduing principles, but time wears down all things. And in the material universe, it represents Kṛṣṇa. Of the many animals, the lion is the most powerful and ferocious, and of the millions of varieties of birds, Garuḍa, the bearer of Lord Vishnu, is the greatest. Of course, Vishnu means all-pervading. So when we talk about God, we'll say that God is all-pervading and that he is omnipresent. So in Sanskrit, the word Vishnu means that. So for those of you, which I think most of you guys are unfamiliar, I sing in 3 languages. I sing in Sanskrit, I sing in Bengali, I sing in English, and also I'm fluent in French. So just that to say that I try and do my best here to go back and forth between our paradigm. I try my best to go back and forth between English and Sanskrit to bridge the gap, because, you know, language is very particular, and sometimes you have to do a little bit more explaining to put things in context for people so it's understandable, because a lot of things get lost in translation, as we know. Even if we're talking with someone we don't know so well, or sometimes if we do are talking so well, we can get into an argument because there's a misunderstanding. So I'm trying to do my best to get rid of any misunderstandings, and I appreciate you bearing with me as I take time to explain things, and I hope you have a cup of coffee or a cup of water like I do. Okay, so going back into the history of this, Diti and Aditi are two sisters. So I've talked about these two personalities, these two sisters before. They were the co-wives. They were both wives of a very powerful yogi whose name was Kasyapa Muni. And as such, you know, they wanted to have children. Just because they wanted to have children, not necessarily because of the status of their husband, because they wanted to have children. Now, in the Vedic conception, Veda means wisdom. In the Vedic conception, for having a child, for the conception of the idea around conception, there are auspicious times to conceive a child, and there is times that are not so auspicious to conceive a child. We don't really have so much of a conception of this here, you know, in America. But in other cultures, timing was extremely important, because when you decide to do something would influence the outcome. So how true is that when deciding to have children? Of course, we understand more in a, financial paradigm, like, can we afford to or can we not, or all of that. But in this case, it was literally about timing in the case of Aditi. So Aditi also had many sons, and unfortunately, because she pressed her husband for sex life at an inauspicious time, because she was nagging him, basically, he obliged. He said, this isn't a good time to do this. But there were very, very strong, forces pulling on Aditi, and so finally he relented, So the outcome of this was that she gave birth to some very selfish, cruel sons who, there's a whole history of the way in which they wreaked havoc and made the lives of people throughout the universe a hell. So, that being said, though, there's always an exception to a rule. Hi, Ian. Pamantar, nice to see you this morning. Thank you for joining. There's always an exception, and an exception to her bad sons was Prahlāda. So Prahlāda broke the mold. He was actually, his father was Hiranyakashipu. I've talked about this before. If you go through the playlist, you can actually find this. But his father was a very, very cruel person. And Prahlāda was very devoted. And so from the age of 5 years old, because he was self-realized, he was fully self-realized at 5. There's a story behind that, but I'm not going to go into that. Well, basically, again, it kind of goes around to the sound vibration and what sounds and what atmosphere a child is exposed to, even while within the womb. And so because his mother, was very devotedly listening to enlightenment through Narada Muni, when the child was born, he was actually fully self-realized. And so when he went to school, instead of kind of going along with the lessons of diplomacy and manipulation and so on and so forth, because of course he wasn't an ordinary kid, he was a prince, and his father was the chief manipulator in the universe, okay? So he wanted his son to be exactly like him. So at any rate, to speed up this part of the narration, Prahlāda Maharaj went against the grain, and he went to school, and he said, my dear classmates, don't waste your time, just trying to learn about how to get money and exploit. You should be spending your valuable human life actually becoming self-realized and developing your relationship with the Supreme. Needless to say, his father wasn't digging that. So there was attempts at torturing Prahlāda in different ways, none of which were successful. So there was a happy conclusion to all of that. But this is just to show that there are always exceptions to a so-called rule. And Prahlāda was indeed exceptional in every way and in his devotion. So then it says here that because of his devotion, that he is considered to be a representative of the Supreme. Then Prabhupada goes on to say that there are many subduing principles, don't we know it, in life, but time wears down all things in this material universe, and so represents Kṛṣṇa. So, as we get on in this chapter, Opulence of the Absolute, there's actually a verse where Kṛṣṇa says, time I am, and I have come to destroy all worlds, everything. So it's the kind of scary aspect of the Supreme. So in other words, if you are not in the pocket, as it were, if you're not able to see things philosophically, if you're not able to see what is happening to everyone here. You know, as much as we love life and as much as we love to cling to life, we have to admit that the current life that we are leading in a particular body, in a particular town, with a particular set of relatives or not, is temporary. We all know that there is going to be an end to that. And why is that? And that is because time is like a wheel. You know, we are aging, things are changing. There's so many songs written about that. Or, you know, sort of reference that, you know, like our love is here to stay, right? You know, the Rockies may crumble, etc. You know, they're only made of clay, but our love is here to stay. So that's actually kind of a cool song. Analogous to this verse is that when you develop your spiritual strength and your spiritual relationship, that is something that cannot be taken away. That is something that is eternal. You can build up your spiritual bank account, build up your spiritual muscle. So that's something that will never leave. However, the other things, you know, the house that we live in, you know, eventually will go away. The body, you know, this portable temple that we're living in eventually is going to return to ashes, you know, dust to dust, ashes to ashes. So many songs have been written about that. So time is the great subduer. Of course, they say that the other things that are a great equalizer are death and taxes. So, but at any rate, death is associated with time in this case. And time is something that Prahlāda Maharaj, when he was offering his prayers to the Lord, he said, you know, he said there were so many things he was not afraid of. You know, he certainly wasn't afraid of the Lord in this fierce aspect. But what he was afraid of was this cycle of birth and death, this wheel of samsara, and having to go around and around and around and around without actually ever linking up and achieving, you know, that truly stable relationship. Okay, I know you guys are intelligent. I know you know what I'm talking about. Then, among beasts, I am the lion, and among birds, I am Garuḍa. So, of many animals, the lion is the most powerful and ferocious, and of the million varieties of birds, Garuḍa, the bearer of Lord Vishnu, is the greatest. So, I mean, pretty much all of us have grown up hearing about the lion and how great he is and how he is the king of the jungle. You know, even here, when we're outside of Africa, we know about that, and musicals have been made about the Lion King. So, yes, the lion is the king of the jungle, and he is majestic, and he is proud, and he is fearless, and he is fierce, and he is the leader of his pride. So, in this way, you know, when we look at a beautiful animal like this that commands so much respect for his dignified bearing, but also his sheer fierceness, then we can understand that this is also a representative of the Supreme in this world, and as such should be given our respect. Then he mentions that of all birds he is Garuḍa. Of course, Garuḍa is not an ordinary bird. Garuḍa is the carrier, is the personal vehicle of Vishnu, of the all-pervading. So you may have seen some pictures, maybe if some of you have traveled to Indonesia, traveled to the Far East, you may have seen the Garuḍa stamba. So a stamba really, it just means it's a pillar, and on top of it you may have seen a personality kneeling that looked like an eagle, that looked like a great bird. Sometimes Garuḍa is depicted as sort of, you know, half human and half bird-like. That is Garuḍa. Also, in Native American culture, sometimes you see, you know, a great bird that is depicted. So Garuḍa is eagle-like, and He is also not a personality to be toyed with, but he is, again, the supreme carrier of Lord Vishnu. I wanted to tell you a little story about Garuḍa, a devotional story. So one time there was a small bird, a small swallow, I believe, that had built her nest, maybe not so wisely, but had built her nest next to the ocean, kind of along the shoreline. And the ocean, or Varuna, and Varuna means he who covers everything, right? The ocean covers 2/3 of the earth. Ended up carrying this bird's nest with the eggs in it out to sea. So this was very, very distressing to the bird. When she came back, her nest and her eggs were gone. And so she was determined to get her eggs back, so she decided that she was going to empty the ocean. So in her very small beak, there she was trying to empty the ocean. And of course, Varuna thought that was very amusing, and everyone was actually laughing at this little bird, not appreciating the tragedy that she had just experienced. So there was talk about this because of her determination and her efforts, and word got all the way to Garuḍa. So Garuḍa actually appeared and said to the Varuna, "You better give her eggs back or else." And so at that point, Varuna got his act together and actually delivered this nest and the eggs back to the swallow. So this is a touching anecdote or a touching story for many reasons, and primarily for the reason that it shows how important determination is, how important it is to keep steady and keep on the path of whatever it is that we are trying to accomplish, and that there will be unexpected setbacks and twists and turns. But, it behooves us, and especially when we are on a spiritual path, just to keep going, because we're all imperfect, right? We all have shortcomings. But just to keep on persevering. Our strengths are our strengths. Our weaknesses, those are more difficult, right? Those are more challenging. But we should try and work on those things little by little as we can, and not be discouraged, and not be afraid to ask for help. Not be afraid to ask for a way to be able to overcome those struggles and those weaknesses that we have, because that's our position. Our position is as jiva. Jiva is just a name for the soul in Sanskrit. Is that, we're very small. However, the jiva is as brilliant as the sun also. So there's this several aspects, to ourselves and our true identity as spirit soul, is that we have the ability to shine very, very brightly, that is actually our true nature. And that we can also become easily overwhelmed. And so, again, getting back to developing a stable relationship with the Supreme, that is why we want to have that, because that is what's going to carry us through so many different circumstances, in this lifetime, and even when we leave this. Because our learning process, but also our loving process, learning to love and learning to reciprocate, is a journey that never ends. Wow. Well, that was good morning, everyone. I just want to let y'all know that I really, really appreciate your support. It really means a lot. Speaking of overcoming and keep going, I've been out here doing this for a long time. And I'm happy to say that your response for the merchandise has been fabulous. It should be arriving here. It should be here by next week. So I'll do an unboxing when it gets here. You guys wanted long sleeves t-shirts of the model shots of me back in the day with the lyric cards. So those are on their way. Also the hot sauce is on its way. The keychains. And I'm going to set up kind of a special little game at some point where you can get a discount. I'm going to be giving away $5 coupons to get a discount on those t-shirts. Yeah. So stay tuned for that. So other than that, I'm wishing you a wonderful week. Try not to be on social media too much because it's negative. Try and keep your head, literally above water. And please be safe. And thank you so much for being here. I will be on Instagram at 9:30 to do a repeat of this for my Instagram peeps. And also here, you will see a post of everything we talked about here with the Sanskrit and the translation and all of that. So if you want to have another look at it, you can. So until we meet again, namaste. Be well, and have a good week. Be kind, be patient, and cry if you need to. Bye-bye now.